World's a better place because you are here to join us. My name is Matt Brown, and I'm the host of the Productive Conversations podcast. It is a beautiful midsummer night here in late June, and we have a very good show for you. You all know I'll explain what we're doing today on a special newly rebranded question show. This is now known as the Reddit question show. So we are going to literally read questions straight from Reddit and get real deep with it, and hopefully lots of upvotes for this one, if you get my drift. But anyways, I have Reagan Sawyer back 2 weeks in a row. Great to see you again, Reagan. What's up?
I'm feeling a little bit tired, but what did they say? Work hard, play hard. So feels good to be with you guys today.
What a great message on that. Well, we appreciate you here, and we're going to make the most of it. And of course, the great Ryan Page, as always. Happy you're here with us, Ryan. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Matt.
And thank you to our presenting sponsor, Magic Mind. I'll give you some more information, but don't forget to check out the description link below to get an exclusive deal on your first subscription on this incredible product. But we'll talk about that a little later. And let me explain what's going on. As I mentioned, we have done these question shows for the past couple of years, pretty much thinking of questions that the internet asks, that the world asks, and all of that. And while preparing today, doing my normal prep, I honestly was running out of ideas. I needed something. Then I was honestly just scrolling, and I get these Reddit questions all the time. So why don't we rebrand this to Reddit questions? And that's what it is. Reddit questions number one. I'm just going to simply ask these, and we will have a productive conversation with it with Reagan and Ryan. So why don't we start with our first question from Reddit? And this is very much a Reddit question to kick it off. So let's do it. So my first question, Ryan and Reagan and myself, what is 100% fact? What is one thing that is 100% fact, but it's hard to believe? Like, basically, what is something in this world that you can't believe is true, but it is? Like, for me,
yes. So, but 100% fact. So not like a truism that you believe, like something that is
like something confirmed or science proved it,
unrefutable.
Ooh. So
right.
pretty daunting to ask, or maybe not. I know it's a big question to ask, but one thing, it could be, if we want to get deep, I'd love that. Or if you want to, something silly too, we can keep it going here. But one thing I was very surprised to know that is a 100% fact is that did you know that KFC, right? Colonel Sanders, he was 67. He was in his late 60s when he started KFC. And he went through 100 different business ideas literally throughout his life. But he kept going, he kept doing it. And now KFC is a big deal, I would think. So one thing, to never give up on your dreams, people. Maybe it takes you your whole life, but hey, nobody will ever forget KFC. Honor lives on.
Nah, better late than never.
That's awesome. Exactly. It's like that teen. Remember, there was a while where there was like a list and how old they were when they broke big, and it's like Tina Fey was 40 something when she got her first. I mean, I don't know. I remember the entire list, but there's a whole list. Like, there's a lot of people who you'd be surprised. It takes people a lot of time to break into stuff, like that in those like fields. So I don't know.
And if you still need some time to think, I actually have the thread here. I could throw some facts if you're trying to think of some. Do we have any yet?
I mean, I was just what is it like? So Earth, the planet, right? I just confirmed it's like 192.6 like million squared. Like, that's the size, which sounds really big, but it's actually like the fifth smallest planet of all 8. Like, when you think about that, right? It's, again, true facts. It sounds like a big number, and then when you're sitting on Earth, it certainly feels like a pretty big place. But then when you think about how big everything else is around Earth, that's a little trippy to think about. Little deep. We're on a pretty small rock, all things considered, compared to the larger rocks next to us, and then all of the space in between those rocks and whatnot. So I don't know. That's again a proven fact. Earth is one of the on the back half of the planets in terms of size. And that's just crazy to think that that's where we all kind of have to live for now. Anyway, I
Yeah,
guess till we move to Mars or whatever. But
Sometimes I
it is
also
true when you think about I'm sorry, it's true when you think about like the gas giants and how just truly
Mhm.
ginormous Jupiter and all those moons are. It's just hard. Space is scary because it's just hard to fathom
Yeah.
the pure distance things are
Mhm.
away from each other,
Mhm.
the pure size, how small we are. It gets really existential really quickly.
tell me about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the home team is what I call it. If we have a mass exodus, I'm staying here and we'll work to keep Earth alive. That's going to be my contribution. Everybody else, listen, all respect. If you want to, go kick off on Mars, do your thing. I'm on the home team. I'm not going up there. So that's just what it is, and that's how we're gonna have to be. For me personally, but
Have you ever seen like there's this one picture that I think it's called Voyager 2 that they
Mhm.
launched back in the 70s and it's still technically on its mission. Like it's
Yeah.
literally left our galaxy and there's one photo. I'm trying to look for it where it really puts the perspective. It's literally out of our solar system and it just took this photo. Um I'm going to try to get the picture while we at it and it was literally like it was like literally light years away
Right. Yeah.
and put it when you hear some deep music going through TikTok at 2 in the morning, we can't sleep. It really puts in perspective like this world we're in, you know?
That'd make it harder for me to sleep. I'd be having existential dreams. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I was doing that. So
Me
Yeah,
too. And I also I anamorphize things. So then I think about the little rover out there. Is he lonely? Is he okay? Is he making friends? And then that keeps me up in a different way. It's a dual issue here.
yeah, like Wall-E pretty much. Which man, that movie was so deep when that came out. By the way, I have
yeah.
the photo right here. So it's actually I mistaken. It was actually from New Horizon, not Voyager. But it's about if I get this correctly. Sorry, confusing photos. Yes, Voyager's one. It's called Pale Blue Dot. It was taken back
Mhm.
in the 80s, and let me show you. Excuse me. Once this loads right here, and okay, let me just do it this way. It's easier from the Google image to actually instead of loading it. Brother gist, right? So here it is. So if you see right here,
Mhm.
Hmm.
this is us
Yeah,
right at this
that's
moment.
crazy. But
I
yeah,
think
I
I see
mean,
me.
smile.
Right,
Yeah.
this is the solar system, and
Mhm.
that is us. About 3
That's
point it's about 3.9 billion miles away.
yeah, just again crazy to think about how big everything is. That's mine. That's the one that I'm bringing to the table. 100% fact, and it's definitely crazy to think about.
For me, I instantly took it to a similar level, but a different level, just taking it deep, literally to the ocean. There's just
Mm.
so much
Oh,
that I've heard a statistic, and I haven't been fact checked, but that we know more about space than we do the depths of our oceans, that it's just so unexplored. And so when I really just kind of sit with that fact of the unknown that's just below the seas, I'm a Florida girl, so I grew up on the ocean. So just thinking about just a few miles offshore, how much mystery there is and all of that. Like the fact that there's giant squids, like you and
Mhm.
awesome at the same time. Like it's crazy to really kind of just sit with that. And yeah, I don't know. Like, are there mermaids out there? Like, there's so much to be said about the unknown, about what's down there. I mean, I don't literally think there's mermaids, but I don't know. Do we know?
I was gonna say this. What would be crazy, like not to be too. I promise. I actually don't love like conspiracies and all that stuff all that much. I mean, I like hearing about them, but I don't believe any of them, as Matt
mhm.
will tell you for the most part. But like, just if there were mermaids and they were like there, and that's why we haven't seen them yet because they're like down, they would have to be some of like the most like they wouldn't be like us at all. They wouldn't look like us at all. They couldn't function like us at all. Like they would be probably some of the scariest creatures that we've ever seen because of how deep in the water they would live. Yeah, the fact that there's so much. I was gonna make a calamari joke when you talk about the giant squids, but then you mentioned the mermaids right after, and now that's stuck in my head. How scary that would probably be to see. But
You know what?
I mean, I watched I watched Finding Nemo, and I watched that
Mhm.
scene where that scary angler fish shows up
yeah,
Yeah.
and they're freaking out. They have to be those big teeth, the big light. Yeah.
yep. That's what I mean. If a mermaid was down there, like where those fish were, that'd be terrifying.
And I don't know who came up with the origin of the mermaid. I know they've been around
Oh, they've been
hundreds of
forever,
years,
yeah.
but maybe somebody like some explorer or some Native American saw one and came up with the idea and concept. So I don't know.
I mean, you think about like there's so many of those things, right? Those mythical creatures, and obviously they're fake. You know, we know that now that they're fake, but it is weird to think about how many like different cultures that should not have known one another, right? They wouldn't have talked to one another. It's not like you tweet about it or whatever. Like have the same idea at roughly the same time, like dragons. Like everyone has a dragon, like story. Like every mythology has dragons in them.
Yeah, right.
And like that's crazy to think about because why would they all have the same exact idea at
Because
the
dragons
same
are
exact
real.
time? Well,
Simple as that.
that's I mean that's one way to look at it, but it could also be like the human mind and the way that we're wired to like see certain things and certain kind of dangers and create in our minds. You know, I think we're all fairly creative people. Like your mind will create some crazy stuff if you let
Yeah.
it, and so it could just be people created fear because they needed to be scared of the unknown. And our minds are all wired roughly the same way. And we all came up with the same exact scary thing at the bottom of the ocean or up in the sky or in the mountains, like all the places we didn't want to go. We came up with the exact same thing because we're all wired the same way. So there's different ways to look at it. But yeah, it is crazy to think about like the myth thing, right? But
Just two things here, then we'll go to our next question. From the actual thread, number one, ciabatta bread?
yeah.
Well, that was created in
Love it.
1982. It wasn't generations to Italy. Somebody just made it in the early 80s. And then they marketed it as this old time recipe.
So Reagan and I went with the existential dread of our existence and the reality of like a world we cannot see. And the number one upvoted one there is ciabatta bread. What came around when Ronald Reagan was president.
Now this
And that's why we go to therapy, Ryan. Me and you, we have a lot of stuff to unpack.
Now, this is a good one too. I really love me a good Reddit story, and this is exactly what it is. All right, from the what is 100% fact thread. Here we go. In 1995, a man named MacArthur Wheeler robbed two banks at gunpoint. He was arrested mere hours later because he didn't wear a mask. Instead, he decided to coat his face with lemon juice because he read that the lemon juice can be used as invisible ink. His logic was that it would make his face invisible. And reportedly, he said to one of the tellers, "Don't worry, I have a face. I'm just invisible." The only thing he did when he was arrested was sigh dejectedly and say, "But I wore the juice." His case is actually still in academic journals regarding the fact that people with low intelligence do in fact believe that they're smarter than everyone else. This man was 45 years old.
There's a whole what is it? I'm gonna look it up, but there's a whole like science to that, and it's a very real thing. The Dunning-Kruger effect.
I've heard of that.
You have?
I feel like I've heard the term, but I don't
Oh
know what it
yeah.
actually is.
So basically, it means like like the effect is like the more you know, like actually, not the more you think you know, the more you actually know, the more you realize like your lack of expertise and therefore your ability to continue to learn. Whereas people at the lower end who know very little think that what they know is an exceptional amount. And so it does create this effect that people who know less do believe that they know more about a specific subject. So again, like it's almost like when you hear the expression like I know enough to know what I don't know, that's kind of what it's talking about. That's a real thing because people you can really not know enough to know what you don't know. And so they say like a lot of times like experts in a field get to that point where they have been doing it for X amount of hours and producing like, whatever content. And they're realizing like, wow, I could do this better. Or how does this work? Why does this work? Whereas
Jeez.
people who don't do that, so people who have not had that same practice, they've done very little. They're like, yeah, I nailed this. I'm great at this. I'm phenomenal at this. So yeah, it's a real thing, a Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah. I will say the fact that he told them that he had a face is objectively very funny. You didn't want to scare anybody. He was robbing them at gunpoint, but he didn't want to scare anybody. So I think that's very fun. But yeah, that's a real thing.
Man, that reminds me when you say something like you could be an expert at something. There's so much where you just don't assume there's more to take in, or you do something so much that the skill just stops. I don't know. Have you ever heard of a term called the yips? It's a sports
Well, it's
term.
different. Yeah, yeah.
No,
So
I haven't.
basically, to explain the yips, it's when an athlete all of a sudden psychologically can't play his sport anymore, pretty much. It's most common in baseball and golf. Like, like if a golfer can't hit a putt that he was hitting for 20 years, and then all of a sudden he just misses like a 2-foot putt, or in baseball, like a pitcher who used to be able to throw strikes down the middle and he just cannot throw down the middle anymore despite playing for years. It reminds me of something like you do something so much throughout your whole life, and psychologically, sometimes it just snaps, I guess. Whether it's this Doug Nerd effect, I know it's different from the yips, but whether
Yeah.
physically or mentally, sometimes maybe too much is a thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you could definitely. I mean, I've heard of the yips. It actually gets used in writing a lot.
Yeah.
And it's funny because obviously the Dunning Kruger is different than yips, but they do say that that's also kind of like a signal of expertise.
Yeah.
Like someone who's not an expert at something is not getting the yips. If they stop doing something, it's because they weren't
Right.
that good at it, and so they stopped doing it, right? But it's like if you get the actual like the yips, and people would say that like it all that implies too. Same with like the Dunning Kruger, knowing that what you don't know, that implies that you're an expert, and therefore you should be doing better. There's things you could be improving. Like so, there is an interesting corollary there. Like you can't be you can't be an expert, or can't not be an expert and have that happen to you. So some similar there.
I'm in to go.
So I can't say to my math teacher and say, "Oh, I got the yips." I'm an
No.
expert now. I don't have to take the
Yeah.
math
You,
test.
I
you'd
would
have
say
to
I
be
failed.
like
It was just
you'd
a
have to
yip.
be like Stephen
tell him
Hawking
that.
or whatever. Like
No, I say tell him to put it to Twitter, and then people will defend.
Twitter yips. I think a few people should get some of that. Forget how to use Twitter for a little while.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, my next question. All right, let's get in here. Let's talk some stories. What is your nobody will ever believe this story?
I don't know.
Like for
Yeah.
me,
Oh.
like one thing that's come to mind that people don't believe, um, everybody knows Anthony Bourdain.
Mm-hmm.
So
Legend.
I used to intern with him at CNN, and I had, before he passed away, rest in peace, right? This fall 16, and I was in charge of being basically his lackey for the day. He was doing specific CNN promotions, going to, like at the time, Anderson Cooper, 360, Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo was there, and I would just walk him around the studios. And so I had no idea who the guy was at all. Like not a like he could have just been he just could have been like any dude on the street. And he was just chill on the street. So I go and I say, "Hey, Mr. Bourdain, here's my ID, my CNN ID. I'm here to help you today." Didn't really acknowledge me or talk to me. I mean, he followed me, but I was like, okay. And then they tell you like, don't take it personally. It's just another talent, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then when I told a few people, I didn't realize he really was one of the most famous world travelers at the time, and his show still is rewatchable and timeless. And that's really it. And then also another story that people don't believe, but I was also working at TV for a little bit after college. I worked on the show TRL, and I worked on when Cardi B was pregnant. They had a baby shower show. The show was dying at this point, right?
Mhm.
No chance at all, right? No, you could tell this. We didn't have many episodes left, but still rocking a roll, throwing this big party. And they have these things called riders, right? That celebrities
Mhm.
have. And I just went to get the food as I normally did for whoever. And I gave her she had a drink, some Starbucks drink. I couldn't tell you the drink, but you said, "Hey, thank you, sweetie," with that Cardi B voice. So Cardi B called me sweetie. True
I
story.
mean, burying the lead, Cardi B nicer than Anthony Bourdain.
Yes, yes, she
Yeah,
was. But again, not to speak ill of the dead, but
that's not
yeah,
ill. You could be
yeah, she
nice and
was.
someone's
But she
nicer.
true. She was genuinely sweet in our 10-second interaction.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that happened. I guess I'm like that celebrity friend. I don't have anything really that cool like that. I mean, I met the Beach Boys or a version of the Beach Boys. There's like six now. But that was interesting. They weren't that nice, to be honest with you. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, no, they were. I mean, you know what really upset me? It wasn't even like whatever. I don't care. It wasn't even like the real Beach Boys that were mean. Like there were real Beach Boys in the group, right? Like OG Beach Boys and like their family, and they were fine. But there was like the people that they clearly hired to fill out the rest of the roster because those Beach Boys weren't around anymore. Those were the ones who were kind of acting superior. I'm like, you're not even a real Beach Boy. You're a substitute Beach Boy. So yeah, that was kind of not fun that they were mean, but I did get to meet them. So I guess, obviously the Beach Boys as a group, pretty iconic musicians, and Brian Wilson, who was not there, but did sign a bunch of stuff for this auction that we were running. So he was involved, just not physically present. Is a legend. So all that good stuff. But on it, like the opposite side of that, I think what I would actually go with, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily believe, right? But like this is true, have a black belt in martial arts.
Now
What?
that I'm not trying to laugh, Ryan, but
Yeah,
that does like
I got it. I mean, I
I
got it
wouldn't
when
know.
I
I
was
wouldn't
in.
know. I don't
No,
want to say
I
that.
got it.
I don't want to
No,
say
I
I don't
mean,
see
yeah,
you when I see black belt, but now I
no, I
do.
mean,
See, that's a
yeah,
perfect
I
answer to
didn't.
this.
I
You could
got
kick
it. I
someone's
mean,
ass.
well, as a kid is when I started, and then by the time I got into high school is when I finished. I actually finished my freshman year of high school because I wanted to stop doing it because I was supposed to go and join the Norwalk High wrestling team that didn't end up working out the way I wanted it to. But yeah, so very specifically, they call it an apprentice black belt, and then you go black belt first degree, second degree, third degree. So technically, if someone is in, to Tang Sudo, it's a Korean martial arts, then then they know what I'm talking about. For all intents and purposes, if I went back into it and I did like a tournament or things like I used to do when I was a kid, yeah, I would have a black belt on. So there
Now
you go.
that's what I'm talking about.
All right. Well, I know who to call next
No,
time
don't
there's
call
a
me.
bar fight. No?
Don't call me. No.
Uh-oh. So
You
not
want to use his
Batman.
powers for good.
It's not even about that. It's that I'm, 30 years old and my legs hurt all the time. So don't call me. I
Mhm.
mean, you can, I mean, and part of it is from that, which I think people don't realize because I didn't play high school sports, because I wanted to do the wrestling and that didn't work out because of my schedule and the coach. But because I did for so long, again, I went to tournaments every weekend, just about traveled around the East Coast to do them, and I always did the sparring, which is what you call like the fighting, right? And there's a lot of rules. It's not like a karate movie or whatever. It's very different. But I did, because of that, have a lot of like repetitive knee motions, both like standing on a leg to do a kick, and obviously the other leg in particular doing the same kind of motion every time at the knee. So my knees do actually kind of like get all cramped up and do kind of fail me a little bit. Not as bad as if I'd done it, the next 4 years. Like if I'd gone all the way, like, football players and stuff do by playing through high school and maybe even into college. Like, yeah, if I had done that, then I probably would have serious hip and knee problems in particular, because I was pretty focused on those body parts. But yeah, every once in a while, like my legs start to really buckle or whatever, and that's all from just the repetitive motion and all that. So there you go.
It's no joke
Yeah.
to have been an athlete. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that
I
adds
don't
up.
consider myself an athlete, given how I look and how I comport myself now. But yeah, no, it's no joke to do anything repetitive like that for years on end.
Is there anything that you have a story, Reagan, that um nobody would believe if you told it?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. You know, I'm kind of like an average person, so I'm trying to think of
Mhm.
something that is relatable. I feel like this is like that moment when we were all in school or whatever,
Yeah,
any like work, and you have to give an icebreaker. They're like, give three
right.
fun facts, and then suddenly your mind's like, I've never done anything fun before in my whole life. I can't
Mm,
think of one thing. I don't know, one kind of silly thing, kind of unbelievable thing that's just a funny coincidence is my husband and I adopted a dog. And whenever we adopted him, his name was Mario. You know, just how rescues give them names.
yeah.
So we weren't really rocking with Mario. That wasn't really the name that we liked. So we renamed him to Louis. Because we saved him from Kentucky. He was in Louisville, Kentucky. So we thought Louis would be a cute
Yeah,
name.
yeah, that's a good one.
But it's what's funny, what's a little unbelievable is that my husband's family, you know, English is a second language for them, and sometimes Louis can be, I don't know if it's a challenge for them or just a name that doesn't roll off the tongue, so they always call him Luigi. So this means that my dog has lived both as Mario and
And
Luigi
Luigi.
in his lifetime. So I think that's just like a kind of like, what? How does life work that way?
That's kind of funny, eh?
And that is sweet.
Luigi.
You know
Now,
another
now I
thing,
wish you named him Luigi.
and you know another thing. It's a little. It's a little. Forgive the tone, really quick, but you know one thing about me that um people don't believe is it's all complicated. It really is. But so I have a really unique family situation. I'm a result of two mixed people, right? Makes me a mutt, right? But long story short, um, and I didn't know about this till about like a decade ago, and finding out the whole history of my family, where my name comes from, the Brown name and stuff. Long story short, I'm a descendant of a slave named Lucinda from a country not sure of, but in Africa, and you know, didn't have the um didn't have the choice, you know,
Yeah.
from a country and goes there. And just from very faint documents that are old, but they exist that explain what she did. But long story short, my last name, you know, I don't know if it was a consensual relationship or not, that she got with a slave owner named Jacob Brown. There's about 5 generations. The first Brown born born in the United States on my lineage was named Byron Brown. Started about 4 generations back. And yeah, not a lot of people know, and you know, as it's weird as the especially in the last ever since 2020 started, and we've seen, you know, a tension in this country, especially with race relations. And when people see me, I've been said every type of race that this, I don't even know what skin to, it's hard to explain, but it's just
Hmm.
not a lot of people know my background,
Yeah.
and I don't have time to say it. And then sometimes people just straight up don't believe it. I don't feel like I have to show you my family pictures and stuff. I don't have anything to prove, but that's probably the one ultimate thing that people don't know me. And, you know, I'll spend my life learning about it, and hopefully I could send that from generations after, keep the Brown name. And I still think they did very well since. So,
There
it's
you go.
very unique. So, it's cool. It's cool. And I like it. It's a cool identity. And we'll keep learning with that. But one thing, it is funny to think, like when you ask that question, guess what this is. I'm not even gonna bother giving that to people because it's not easy answer.
Yeah, I do know the answer. Yeah, Matt has got a very, very wide range of family histories. So
Yeah, it's cool. It's like if you saw these family photos, you would. It's exactly what the United Nations wanted. So
I've been to pool parties at Matt's house. Can confirm. So
yeah, so that's probably the ultimate thing people don't know about me. And again, we could do a whole podcast explaining it, but it's just my lineage, and I'm very proud of it and learn from it. So it's cool stuff.
That's awesome. Cool.
Thank
It's
you.
cool to learn so much about you two just from one question, how these questions can
I know, right?
bring
Yeah,
paths.
Reddit gets a bad rap, but if you use it the right way, if you use it this way, it's fun.
that's what
It's
I'm
just
saying.
when you use it other ways that it's less fun.
Indeed. Now, one more question until we talk about some Magic Mind. All right, we get another deep one. What felt like a useless piece of advice until you tried it? Again, what felt like a useless piece of advice until you tried it? I know, right?
I might need a second on this one.
I feel like what came to mind for me is and it's kind of boring professional blah blah blah, but networking, people always tell you network, and I was like, what even is networking? What does that word even mean? I don't even know how to do that. But and I still don't really know. I don't know any of that stuff, but I like to chit chat and I like to connect and I like to listen and ask questions, and I think, just giving people space to share something about themselves and is something really special that you can do in any setting, whether that be, something deep like, the questions we're talking about today, or just something lighthearted that keeps on a surface level professional standpoint. But I definitely think that saying it's all about who you know is really great. And just yeah, like obviously networking has that professional standpoint, but just, knowing your neighbors, knowing your community members, having friendly faces at the coffee shop, at the grocery store, networking to me has kind of gained a new meaning that I thought was so lame whenever all of my professors were telling me about that. But I think in my adult life, I see so much value in it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that is very much true. And I don't want to change the word, but I understand sometimes I would go to network events in college. You would have they give you I'm just thinking one of mine. They give you a name tag and they say, go network, go talk. And when you're in a forced networking situation, it's weird, but this is technically networking. It's just talk with someone. That's really it. And if one thing leads to another, that's where, those opportunities come from. So if there's just a way we could really convey that instead of just forced networking, like in college events, I think that would be easier for everybody.
Agreed.
Yeah. And, two things that come to mind about the advice. One, and I could do this all day. I really have like lists of advice that I read all the time to remind myself into this. We'll do one deep, but one not so deep. One deep is always forgive yourself when you can, especially when things didn't work out. If things didn't, in a certain situation, if things didn't go the way you planned, sometimes the best course of action is forgiving yourself. And you mentioned the therapy, and I've been somebody who's been a part of it, who started his journey with therapy this spring. And my therapist mentioned that to me a couple weeks ago, because I was talking about things that were bothering me and that bothered me for years. And when she said that, that was a huge weight over my shoulder, and a huge cloud was drifted away, and things became so clear. And the things that I was worrying about, I haven't been thinking about them, and I've let them go. And even if, I guess with better context for it, I was thinking about, like past relationships a lot, and they were brought up on the show a lot, so much, a certain situation. So to the point where I did bring it up in my therapist, like, I've been talking about this one situation on my phone, these twin flames things. I've been thinking about it a lot, and they've been thinking about stuff that was years ago that still bothering me. And when she said that, I really let go of the past, and I haven't looked back since, and I don't plan on it because I forgave myself of things going on. And that was really sweet. And I appreciate my therapist putting that out there. And it helped make things so much clearer for me and a better future ever since. And then another piece of advice, don't try to be friends with the driver's license during your driver's test. I remember, I don't know why. I thought I need to win this driver over. I need to win this driving instructor over during my test. I need to win him over. Try to be friendly, be friends, maybe give him some cookies and then he'll pass me. But somebody, I remember even maybe I just told myself the advice, but it was just, don't try to be this guy's friend. Just focus on the driving. And it worked. I got my license. Still driving. So 2 things of advice, both deep and not deep, that made things more clear.
Yeah,
it sounds like you went into that. I'm sorry. It sounds like you went into that driving test, Matt, and you just said, "I'm gonna be the coolest driver this man has ever met."
Oh yeah, there was definitely a point.
Cool.
And you know that they don't want that because they just don't want to even be there. They just want this to be over. They got to get in the car with inexperienced drivers all day, putting themselves, kind of on the line a little bit and be like, all right. They just don't want to befriend you. They want you to just go, park, and come back. Make them safe, and they'll give you a driver's license.
Oh, wow. By the way, just want to announce the New York Knicks just got Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets. They saved that guy. Awesome. We'll talk about that next week with NBA Productive Conversations. But a great thing for the Knicks. That's awesome. Sorry to interrupt. No. But what was I saying? Yeah, and I remember that day. Do you remember Drake? You know that Drake and Josh episode when they got their driver's license?
Yeah.
And they have like
Oprah.
That was different. But long story short, Drake got like this beautiful, pretty one.
Yeah.
And then Josh got the ugly one. And I remember the 2 driver's licenses. You saw this nice little geeky guy, or you got this mean, grumpy old man. And of course, I got the grumpy old man. But when I drove, and I remember I did the turn signal a little early. That was my only mistake.
Only demerit, yeah.
Yeah, and then he was just like pissed, like, drive safe. I remember I wanted to give this guy like a high five and stuff, but it worked out. So when you go for your driver's license, don't try to be friends with the instructor. Just drive, because that's the point.
Good advice. I guess for me, the thing that I was seeing if something better or more like something more succinct came to mind. It did not, but I had someone give me some advice when I was looking to make a big decision a while back. And it basically amounted to, well, again, it wasn't like a fortune cookie easy one, but it basically amounted to, you'll never actually have enough time and you'll never actually have enough money. And so this was not like a free spirit. The person who gave me this advice, he was certainly, not a free spirit. So I didn't ask like a, kind of floaty sort of whatever Berkeley professor for some advice, and they're like, yeah, just live life, because that would make sense. This was a person who was opposite of that in many ways, but it was still the same advice, and I don't know if I fully appreciated. I mean, listen, I took the advice. I ended up proposing to my now wife. That was the advice that led to that particular conversation, but or that particular conversation. But I don't know if even then I fully appreciated both like aspects of that. The idea that, time and money, those are 2 resources we all kind of feel we need, but they are finite no matter what. And so I think more recently I've come to realize how finite certainly time and then, in a lot of ways money is. And so you can't necessarily live your life like, Smaug the dragon trying to collect those 2 things. At some point you have to spend them because they're going to disappear on you whether you want them to or not. So yeah, I guess that's probably the advice that I would go with.
I like that, Ryan. I think that's very, very noble, and look what happened out of it.
Yes, in my very specific situation, I took the advice, but I will say I took the advice without really understanding it. So it's probably important to understand the advice before you take it. As a general rule, for all of the advice, including the driver license or the driving instructor one, make sure you understand the advice before you just implement it. That's always important to have a full grasp of what you're doing. But
Excellent work, though, Ryan. Excellent work there. All right. So, take a quick little break to talk about the great people of Magic Mind really quick, who've been an amazing sponsor all year long, and we really appreciate what they have done for us. Much love to our friends at Magic Mind. But let me talk to you a little bit about this great product. But, it's getting really hot outside, and our summer schedule is in full swing. And 4th of July is coming up already next week. Shoot. So we got to really enjoy this. But the warm weather can often bring a summer burnout, right? And that means trying to have some productive conversation with your friends and family and colleagues or co-hosts can become a chore. Instead of having fun at your summer staples like baseball games, concerts, the beach, all of that stuff, summer productive conversations, you end up struggling to find some energy to go out sometimes to do all these things. It happens to all of us. But instead of being inspired to accomplish your summer goals, like recording your podcast, and you can't focus on any of them, nobody wants their summer to flame out, right? And we are fortunate to have our good friends at Magic Mind to help us find an easy way to build and maintain our focus and energy every single day. We've mentioned Magic Mind before, and I have gotten back to the swing of it. And even Ryan started using it on a daily basis. That's correct, Ryan?
Yep. Got my next shipment coming in.
All right, great. They'd love to hear that. And I just love to hear it as well. And everybody who takes it will love it. And the thing here is, we could both attest that Magic Mind really works. And you add it to your morning routine. Specifically for me, I like to use it as a way to get my energy up. To boost my confidence for the day, pretty much. And taking it every day is the key. And it's not a quick boost and it's not a quick energy drink. It's not a 5-hour energy or anything like that. This actually improves your energy long term, and the results last longer. The difference is clear as well. I genuinely wake up more easily. I wake up in a more easy tone. I am up and about. I feel energy. I can't even snooze because of Magic Mind, which is a good thing. And I'm very serious about that, by the way. I literally just get up and I have the energy ready to go. And, and it helps me go about my day at work and then put these shows together at night as well. So, it also tastes very good. So you don't have to feel bad about, mixing this with your morning coffee. But especially someone like Ryan who loves his coffee, he can add Magic Mind as well, and both help him go about his day. And we love that. And we thank Magic Mind for the amazing product to help us get ready for our day. And Magic Mind is full of vitamins and their signature nootropics, and it helps starve off fatigue by giving you longer lasting energy that is all important for mental clarity. I can't recommend this stuff enough. And it gives me the extra boost we need in the stressful world we live in. And it's helped me physically and mentally. And my inflammation has gone down. I'm out and about. And I cannot talk more about how Magic Mind really helps me throughout the entire day. So right now, you could get your first subscription off this amazing product by checking out the description below with the code, but you could get 48% off your first subscription using the discount code PCMB20. PCMB20, Productive Conversations, Matt Brown 20. And you could get this exceptionally great deal from it. Again, either you just go to the website and type in PCMB20 and get the link from our description page below. And if you're looking to try Magic Mind instead for the first time, you can also get a 20% off. You can also get 20% off a one-time purchase using the same exact discount code, PCMB20. So make sure you head over to magicmind.com/PCMB if you're interested in Magic Mind, and use the discount code PCMB20 to get a great deal on an excellent product. And again, Just type it down what I just said, but we also have the description below. And I use it, Ryan use it, and we can't use it, and we can't recommend it enough. So this is a limited time offer. And again, thank you to Magic Mind for making this all possible. Again, one last time, magicmind.com/PCMB, and use the discount code PCMB20 to either get 48% off your first subscription or 20% off your first one-time purchase. Great stuff.
I'm about to say it works. I put my actual money on this too. I use PCMB20. It's how I got my subscription started. So again, big shout out to Magic Mind for all of that. And if you guys are interested, definitely give it a try. Definitely give the website a look. And like Matt said, all that's in the description. So.
And amen to that. So thank you again, Magic Mind. And let's continue with the show. So Ryan, I know your relationship with conspiracies varies, but I have to ask because I knew this would be a great question for you. What conspiracy theory is so believable that it might be true? So it's not confirmed or denied yet, but through the various conspiracy theories in the world, what is something that is a conspiracy theory that is so believable that it might be true? Like, for instance, I'm sorry, the JFK stuff. There's some people make some crazy points with that. Not to get too morbid, but I mean, the motives, the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, the lack of, photo. I mean, there is obviously photo and video evidence, but technology isn't as sharp as it was now. Like if it happened today, you'd think that, you'd think that we would have a conclusion. But especially I think the two gun theories, that's weird. But it's plausible. People really, really make these cases. So I'm going to throw that out there. And we're still fascinated by this day from it, 60 years later.
What do I believe? Okay. I don't believe any of these, but I would say that one of the ones that I find very interesting, and it comes up a few times in pop culture, but the one that I am drawn to, I presume the original, is that what now Sir Paul McCartney died and was replaced in the Beatles. Now some of the evidence is pretty sketchy, like the hidden messages in the song playing backwards, as creepy as it is to hear those songs played backwards. And I can actually hear what people are thinking, but that's your brain plugging it in. I don't know. And it's very similar to, I guess I'll put them together. And then the Avril Lavigne is the other one, I believe, right? That who is supposedly replaced. And the Avril Lavigne one, in a lot of ways, actually, I feel like the photo evidence is actually almost more compelling on that one. So maybe I'll talk about that one. But yeah, I do think it's totally plausible that a brand like the Beatles, or to a much lesser extent, Avril Lavigne, no offense to Avril Lavigne, just a fact, right? That they would, if they could, keep the money train flowing, even if one member of the group died. Like, I do believe that there would be a record producer or like an executive who would pitch the idea in a meeting, and I do believe that there would be people who say, yeah, let's do it. Let's find a replacement to be this brand. So do I know that either of those are true? No. But what I believe, that if it came out someday that something like that did happen, that a brand just replaced its star or one of its stars in an attempt to keep people from knowing that they had passed so they could keep making money, yes, I do believe that that's something that could happen and maybe already has happened. So there you go.
Yeah, that Avril Lavigne thing is crazy. I've seen that was what came to mind for me instantly too. But you're absolutely right. I mean, like, we need to keep our eye on Taylor Swift, on all these big stars,
Some of the
and
big
they
ones, right?
start, yeah, they start looking a little different, wearing eyeliner in a different way or something. Yeah, we got to keep our eye out. For me, I feel like I have to be careful with conspiracy theories, like off camera, off pod. I might even have like a tinfoil hat over here because
Mm.
my family just very much has something going on in it where it's in my blood. So I gotta retract from all conspiracy theories because sometimes I'll be on TikTok late at night and I'll be
Yeah.
scrolling and then I'll be clicking on the next link and clicking on the next link. And then suddenly I'm like in some weird space of the internet that my algorithm shouldn't know about because it's going to feed me other crazy videos. I just feel like, I guess, to my point, I don't know, there's so much conspiracy in this landscape of the internet right now. It's unavoidable. Like, are there things that I believe in that I can't even target that are conspiracies? I mean, I like to think no, because I like to think I'm an intellectual, but just in this time of AI and weird people saying things online, they are everywhere. And I got to check myself before I wreck myself because that's a slippery slope with my DNA, I think.
I was gonna say, like, I too, as this will be a surprise to Matt. I don't know that Matt knows this either. This was a little while ago. But so everyone I think on the show knows that I'm a writer. And I take that term pretty loosely to putting ideas on a piece of paper for the most part. I'll try anything. And so I actually did go in for a scriptwriter job for a YouTube series. In the YouTube series, I didn't get it, but the YouTube series, I won't give it free publicity, but it's based around like conspiracies and a lot of like some and stuff like that. And so I started watching it in order to write the script that I needed to write to try and get the gig full time. And I ended up just kind of like liking the host and liking the format. And so like, all right, interesting, whether I believe it or not, interesting. And he covered one thing called the Göbekli Tepe recently. It's like these
Okay.
ancient ruins. And like the dates that we have for when they existed don't make sense. If that makes sense. I'm not gonna explain it that well, but like everyone went in and said, oh, these are like roughly this old because they're from like this civilization, because that's the first time that anyone lived in the region. But everything when they actually went in there and started like carbon dating it was older than that. And so there's like a whole civilization that was clearly there because we see their houses, we see their pottery, we see their, all this stuff, courtyards, and so they were there. We could see that they were there, but all of like our modern science is saying that what we assumed it was is not correct, and that it's something much older. And so that leaves the question, like, what was it? Like, who were they? Since we don't know who they were, and where did they go? Because we know where the other people went, right? We know like who we thought it was, and they did live. The other people did live in the general area, and we know how they kind of moved around, but we don't know anything about these folks. So we know that they were there before we thought, and something happened that made them disappear, so the people we know about could move in to the general area. And so that one was an interesting one too. But I think they're all like fun, and you can poke a hole in every single conspiracy theory. In my opinion, I've never heard a single conspiracy theory that I thought was airtight. I think most of them, if not all of them, are mostly false. But I guess they're kind of fun to get your brain flowing. They're kind of, they're interesting, almost like creative exercises. Like, what if this was real? Like, or what if this happened? What could, you start thinking, what could have happened to those people, right? And now you can come up with all these crazy scenarios in your head. So it's a fun thought exercise, even if it's likely that the test was wrong or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably something super benign, like, oh, we put the wrong whatever someplace, or oh, we were off by however many, like 100 years about when these other folks moved in, right? Like, it could be something totally benign like that. But yeah, so that was another interesting one.
You gotta admit the you gotta admit the pyramid stuff is kind of crazy, and still trying
The
to figure out
pyramids are crazy.
how that was actually constructed way back when, how long they've been around. There's allegedly graffiti in there of people just writing what they did back then. why can't we
Like
just go in
graffiti
there?
or like hieroglyphics? Like, was it
Well,
writing or
that's
like spray paint?
something. Yeah, like something like that.
Okay.
Some type of communication.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird that they're guarding it. Like, what do you got to hide?
Oh, I mean, it's
Same
probably
with
for
Area
very.
51 and stuff like that.
Nah. I will say this. I'll say this. So I'm not allowed to know a ton about everything that my wife knows, but she met someone who just said point blank to her, did not give any extra information, and I'm not extrapolating or any further, but all they said was, it's just never a good idea to go out into the desert at night, ever. The desert in the United
Simple as
States.
that. Just don't go
Yeah,
in the desert.
In the United States, you just never want to go too far off the path in the desert. And that's all they would say. I'm not going to give any more information about any of this.
Jeez.
When this was said, why this was said.
Somebody knows something.
But that's all I know. It's all anyone in my family knows. But yes, someone is at least, not that, by the way, not that this person would necessarily be in a position to really know anything. We're not that important. You know what I mean? So it could just be spooky stories or whatever, but there's enough weird stuff in the desert that a spooky story would make sense. So yeah,
You know, when
the desert, stay away from the desert is apparently the moral of the story. And even without, like, we saw those monoliths, right? Remember that story?
that just shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah. How long ago was that? Was
There's
like
a new one.
Yeah,
Is
I
there?
saw one. Yeah, I saw one recently. Here it is. You know, if we're going to talk about this with the aliens and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone made a good point. Why now? Out of all the civilizations, if there is another intelligent species like us, why are they specifically coming to 2024? They saw Donald Trump. They say this man must be stopped. They see Joe Biden. They said this man must be stopped. I've heard people say it's because of the nuclear attacks. Again, hasn't happened since 1945. That's pushing 80 years ago. Are they stalling for 79 years? Now we're gonna go get them. I don't know.
I mean, if you're conspiracy minded, then I feel like your brain instantly says, "Oh, because this is, well, I'll call it the season finale, right, or maybe series finale." So I guess that there's, like, if you're conspiracy minded, that's where your head goes. You want my opinion? The reason why it never happened before, but is happening now, is because it's not happening now. It didn't happen before. It's not going to happen later. That'd be my opinion. My true opinion is it's not happening now. They didn't wait. They're not there, and that's why they're not coming. Or if they are there, they're not anywhere near us, and they're not going to be coming near us. We'll probably never know about them. Which I do believe. I mean, it's weird to think that there'd be no one else in the entire universe that, like, at all, right? Like, that'd be crazy. That would almost be scarier than the idea that there was something else. But I don't think we're gonna get, like, Martian invaders or whatever. That's not happening, and that the
Reagan,
reason why it hasn't happened is because it's not going to.
Reagan, are aliens real?
You know,
Plead the
I'm
fifth.
tweaking, bro. I'm tweaking, bro, right now thinking about it. I don't know. I mean, we're so small. We're just so small. Thinking about that little rover picture.
True.
But
Mhm.
yeah,
I looked at it.
it's the one at the beginning. It's just wild to think about. I don't know. I don't want to say too much. I don't want Area 51 to hear me.
No worries, no worries. All good, all good. So the next question I have, similar to the first one about what is 100% fact, this one is now, what is a historical fact that you learned that really shocked you throughout your life? Now, the question they have, what historical fact did you learn that ruined everything you thought of life? We don't have to make it that sad, but just what's a historical fact that has really shocked you, big or small? Like, one thing, why chainsaws were invented?
I assume to cut down trees.
No, they were used for they were apparently used for surgeries, and they were made to cut bones for amputation. That's literally the reason why they made them, not for treat.
That's not precision. That's not precision tool. That's horrible.
Yeah, says here created by a Caesarean In 1780, two doctors invented the chainsaw to make removal of bones easier and less time consuming. And they were
1780, you said?
yeah.
That has to be the most terrifying device anyone's ever created. A 1780s chainsaw.
And it was a hand crank.
Oh, that's horrible. Oh my God. God, what is a historical fact that ruined everything or changed everything or that I don't believe or I don't even know like how to approach this?
I don't know. It's a Reddit
Um,
question.
this is a tougher one, which is weird that this one is tougher because you'd think being historical, like you could just pick a historical
Yeah,
fact, but
and again, if you want to use a historical fact that makes you happy, we'll do that too. Um, and like for another one, like a fun one, you want to keep the Beach Boys, like the song Kokomo.
mm-hmm.
Some people say that's not a real island; they just made that up.
Kokomo is not real.
Well, see, that's what we're learning. They
Yeah,
just made it up.
Kokomo is not a real place. I mean,
What?
I guess in the song they say it's off the Florida Keys. So is there an unnamed island somewhere off the Florida Keys that we could perhaps rename to Kokomo? I don't know. I don't know geography that well, but there is no actual Kokomo Island that I know of off the Florida Keys. So yeah, I believe that one is true. Can that be mine? No, you said that. I can't be mine. Hmm. Reagan, do you have one?
I can't think of anything. Something that historical that blows my mind is all of those
Mhm.
bog deaths. You know what I'm talking about? How I think it was like in Europe, they have like these large bogs, like this swamp area
Mm-hmm.
where, where it's like very much wetland, like you sink down sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, they used to, I guess, use them very much for like sacrificial in quotations sort of there's different kind of spiritual reasons that people might have gone into the bog. We speculate pieces like that, or also speculate that people just got lost and ended up getting sucked in just because of
Oh,
the nature.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, like that whole thing just blows my mind, and how from a modern day perspective the bodies are composed just so well in bogs that the ecosystem of the bog basically can keep things, even like clothes, and they could even see like
Yeah.
what these people had in their stomachs and like what
oh,
they had, like what their skin has, even more. It's some of the most preserved bodies we've ever found from I fairly long time ago. So just that whole concept of how land has a through line even to our day right now, and how like that geographical phenomenon has created such a cultural significance at that time, and even now with how we're able to see so much about history is this really blows my mind.
yeah, that blows my mind too. And you don't know how deep our technology really comes and how advanced. So, obviously we're advanced society, but I feel even 100 years ago, things are pretty advanced back. Like the idea of having a surgery 100 years ago, they
Mm-hmm.
did it. They did
Right.
it. They were able to figure out, like, dang,
They
you
had to
know,
do it, but it's yeah, they had to do it, I believe, but that's crazy, right? How medicine was just kind of made up.
as it
Yeah,
goes. Yeah,
they're
the
like, oh,
dummies
this
and
might
stuff.
work. Yeah. I guess, and I just made sure I got this right. There's a current, I believe, still alive, a current relative of like grandson, I believe, even maybe great grandson of the 11th president of the United States alive.
Just a normal
What?
grandson.
Yeah, it's grandson or great grandsons, but it's, I mean, still that's
The
crazy. And
11th president was.
John Tyler, but
Oh, I didn't. I don't know who he is.
he
Sorry.
took over when William Henry Harrison died. No,
It's pretty much. I'm
maybe
good.
he's the 10th. Doesn't matter.
I could go from
Let me
Lincoln
double check
on.
that now. Let me double check that now.
No, I
I
can't.
don't know.
I could go from Roosevelt on. I know the presidents.
I'm sorry. 10th. I said 11th. 11th was Polk. But yeah, and it goes to this one guy, like I guess obviously his father or grandfather, I don't remember. he had a bunch of wives. He just kept having wives even as he got older, and so like eventually he got real old. Like, we're talking Robert De Niro old. So when we made fun of De Niro for his new kid, well, he's not the only celebrity to do that. Apparently, this relative of John Tyler did the same thing, and so yeah, I believe he's not necessarily in great health. I think he's blind, but yeah, there's someone who was like a very close relative of the 10th president of the United States, who's at least as of like last year still alive. I don't know how well they, or if they even knew President Tyler at all. But they knew, like, they would presumably knew their father or grandfather and then their father. And so they would have known people in their life who were, directly connected to like a time in American history that is just literally almost unfathomable. We were really making everything up. Like, talk about medicine. We were just making everything up at that point in time. So just kind of interesting to have someone who still has even any kind of direct connection to that time period.
Yeah, that's bizarre too. And like, you can go look at 50s TV footage of people who were around during the Civil War.
Right, that's crazy, right?
You want to know what historical fact blows my mind? Did you know that red velvet cake is just chocolate cake with red food coloring?
Yes.
History. Not a lot of people know about that.
I did know that one.
I know that, like, cognitively, but every time I take a bite of red velvet cake, I just don't believe it.
So a lot of people don't use the same frosting. Like, when you make a red velvet cake, you use a specific frosting, right? And you don't necessarily use that on a chocolate cake. So it does taste different than like a chocolate cake, because you usually use a different kind of frosting when you make chocolate cake. So there is a different taste. So I would say there's still different foods, like they're different meals, right? Or meals. They're different foods and they taste different. But yeah, it's just food. The base is actually not the difference. It's the cream cheese and all the stuff they put in the frosting.
What a world we live in, am I right? All right, last question for today. I want to ask you, tell me a song that has a special meaning to you. Positive, sentimental, and then I'd love to hear the story about it. Like, tell me a special song to you and what it means. It could be funny, it could be sad, it could be hilarious, it could be angry. I don't know. All of this. Like, when I was at work one day and everybody was mad, I put on the song Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, and I just wanted to break my computer, but I didn't. But for 1 second, I was like, imagine if I just broke my work. But I got over it.
Broke my work.
But I got over it. But I'll think of a better story, trust me.
Okay. Well, so obviously I have the easiest one I could do, I guess, to start us off, be the song Everything by Michael Bublé. That's my wedding song. So my wife and I, that was our first dance. Which is nice. I will say we surprised people. We didn't go to dance lessons, but I was a performer. I guess I technically in some ways still am, but I was a more serious performer when I was younger, and my wife did like dance for a gazillion years as a kid, right? And so we decided, what if we like did an actual, like, we actually danced to it. Like, we choreographed a kind of a ballroom-esque dance to the song. And so I think a lot of people were shocked when we ended up having like an entire routine. It was a big hit from what I could tell. I remember everyone being pretty excited. Actually, both Matt and Reagan were there. So they can attest to this, or call me a liar if they need
sweet to see.
But yeah, so I guess that's the easy one. So I'll start there, get the juices flowing, see if I can't come up with a more personal one. But that's my safety pick.
Yeah, whatever you want.
By Michael Bublé.
However you want to answer it. Doesn't have to be as well. We're just, what songs mean something to you? Good or lesson learned.
If you want, think all songs mean something. I will say that. I think every song, like songs are a really powerful form of art. Even songs that aren't considered art, I feel like they elicit some sort of like thought or emotion, idea. A lot of like as a writer, a lot of the best ideas I've had for stories came after listening to a song. Um, and it's actually a weird thing because it's not just writing about what happened in the song. Sometimes you'll hear a song, it'll make you think of, I don't know, like love, or to make you feel of lust, or to make you feel of like anger. And so you can actually come up with some really interesting stories that have nothing to do with the words of the song you've heard, but
Yeah.
just the vibe of it. So I think all songs mean something.
Even those silliest songs
Sometimes
can be
too,
something.
yeah, I mean, sometimes songs too, if you just like listen to them a lot in a certain time of your life too, like a long time period. For me,
Hmm.
it's kind of a silly one. Uh Matt, is that I remember when the song Love Story by Taylor Swift was like the
Hmm.
song that was always on the radio. I remember being like a little nerd in middle school and reading Twilight Eclipse. So like every time I hear the song Love Story, I think of sitting in my chair as a middle schooler, like reading Eclipse. Like it takes me back to like the smell of my bedroom, and you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like to those flashbulb memories of life. I think a song too that I really that like holds significance to me, kind of the opposite of Ryan's. It just made me think of yours because I got married and I obviously have a wedding song. It means a lot to me too. But to not be monotonous, I remember being in undergrad and I had my first boyfriend in college and we broke up and my friends all were like, "You're getting out of here, you're going into a car." And we were like 8 girls deep in a car and they started playing Riding Solo by Jason Derulo just to like get me out of the funk. And you know, obviously the origin is, you know, like a breakup, but like to me, like that song, when I hear it, I just think of the windows down, like with my girlfriends, just screaming, like with the girlies, the lyrics, and just, you know, doing like the car moves or you have your hand out the window doing the wave. And like that song really like encapsulates just being a girl and being with the girls and having fun. It's so special.
That's a beautiful story, Reagan. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Oh man, one song that I'm thinking I could literally, there's so many different songs, various along the way. It's probably one was, I feel like there's certain artists that if they really make a big impact on you, you remember the first time you heard the artist.
Mm.
And I think of the first time I heard The Weeknd, right? I don't know why. Ryan, maybe you're with me, maybe you're not. I was just in high school driving at the beach. It's like the springtime, which you're not allowed to be at the beach at this time, but we're there anyways.
Hmm.
And though her name's Lauren now, but was Lucas, played this song. It's like, you need to listen to this
Was
person.
it Dirty Diana?
Yeah, it was
I
the
was in the
week.
car. I
Yeah,
was in the car for this.
it was it was in it was like, you need to hear this artist. He's like the biggest upcoming star. You won't believe. And I'm like, okay. And I hear him and he's doing Dirty Diana in like the dark. Like, this is the beach, no lights whatsoever. It has to be like midnight or 1. And I just hear this powerful voice I've never heard before. I'm like, what is this? And it's a cover of Michael Jackson. First of all, how similar he sounded to Michael Jackson. And then I realized, like, for the whole last decade, The Weeknd's the top 5 artists I've listened to my whole life. Played in the Super Bowl, which is really a peak for an artist in America, at least. And I can remember hearing the first time, I was like, wow, this really hits. And and I also found, when I found my favorite rock band, right? My favorite rock band is Red Hot Chili Peppers. That is my dream show. Will accomplish a big part of my life when I see the Red Hot Chili Peppers perform. And the first time I heard them was in Guitar Hero 3 and a bonus song, Suck My Kiss. I was like, this is the coolest sounds I've ever heard, these ears have ever heard, with guitars, bass, and drums and singing all in one. This is the best thing I've ever heard. So Ryan mentioned last week how my fascination with Woodstock 99, right?
You
Like, years
did, yeah.
before the documentaries. The reason why that specific concert, obviously, I don't condone the violence that took place and the disaster, but I like that concert so much because I like that festival so much was because they were my favorite band. That was the first time I saw my favorite band perform. Now, this had to be at least 10 years after they performed this show, and they closed out that festival. And I just looked up Suck My Kiss on Google, and that was what they showed me first. Red Hot Chili Peppers performing Suck My Kiss Woodstock 99. So I see it the first time. I see what my favorite band looks like. And that's why I'm fascinated by that concert the most, because I know I have my favorite band because of it. So that's what it's crazy. And there's so many Guitar Hero songs that have that nostalgia feel. And now you're 13. I'm playing it. I feel I beat the game on Christmas. I was just playing all this music, and I learned I love rock music because of Guitar Hero, really.
I think everyone who likes rock music now is because of Guitar Hero, because rock music hasn't been popular in a long time. I don't know. I guess to end us out, Reagan kind of mentioned this with like the flash bulbs, and this is what got me thinking, like, because there are like certain like core memories that I think songs in particular can unlock, and not just core memories, but like they can almost speak to like an entire like either an entire moment or like even an entire like several years, like a vibe, right? And so three that come to mind that kind of fit that are there's a really old song by Cher called Dark Lady. It was the first song that ever scared me, and I bet you if I listened to it tonight at 30 years old, I'd still be scared.
Really?
Yeah. And so there's that. And I mean, true story. So I've only been to Maine once when I was a kid. And to me, in my mind, Maine is almost, again, like this scary place. Everyone I met in Maine was scary to me. Everything we did, my family on vacation, was scary to me. It's because while we were driving through Maine, or driving around Maine, getting back to Massachusetts, we were playing the Cher CD that my dad had, and he liked this song, Dark Lady, and so he played it a bunch. And it, again, scared me the entire time, and so it made all of what's it called? Made all of Maine scary to me. I was gonna say, and then the last one that comes to mind is I Like Me Better by Lauv, which is a much more recent song and a much different vibe. But it, for whatever reason, despite never living in New York City, it just feels like college. So I think that's exactly kind of what Reagan was talking about, like, and not just college, but like the end. So it feels like my junior and senior year, like moving on, getting ready to do like real adult things and be an actual like productive member of society. And there's other ones, but those two came to mind right away because like one made the entire state of Maine scary to me, and I bet you probably still would to this day. And the other one like instantly transports me to like that last moment before you become a real adult and life gets, real. And so those two I think mean a lot for those reasons. Two very different reasons, but
I have a similar, when I think of the beginning of college, like another artist that shaped me, one of my favorite artists now forever, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. I remember the very first time I heard him, and now he's the soundtrack of my life. And he's the outro song for this podcast on Spotify and Apple that anybody's noticed. And it's the outro Forever Be, right? But it was my first semester, like a lot of it was just like, okay, trying to figure yourself out, trying to establish your friend group, right? And I joined a fraternity, and that really helped me get out of my social circles, right? But I was also working at the TV station, and I remember this guy must have been like, his name might be Jorge or something. He's like, yo, look at this music video. All it was a porn star dancing to this song. But I love this song so much with 3000, and like before I'm about to, go pledge, before I'm about to get all these leadership opportunities, before I start interning and stuff, that whole album, Because of the Internet and 3005, like that was like pretty much transitioning from high school to college. Like that's the one song that I went through to begin that journey, and that's why it's one of my favorite songs ever. And then and I also remember he has an album called 4020. It's 3/20/1920, right? And it was the album he dropped like the night of COVID. And it finally was completed earlier this year. But I hear this album and I think about going on those long COVID walks because there was nothing to do. I just listened to that album. So and then last but not least, some positive sounds in music. Like when you think of a kid, I think about TV shows when we were kids. Like there's no life issues at all. You're just living in the moment as a kid. And a couple songs is the Arthur theme song. When I hear that stair drop, bum, 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 every day when you're walking down the street,
Arthur's great.
I just think I'm sitting as a young boy, the whole world ahead of me and enjoying the moment. And you know what's another one? Is we were talking about Little Mermaid, the
Under the Sea?
Yeah, Under the Sea. I specifically think of preschool in there. Again, like I just have to hear those notes and
and you're back.
I'm back. I don't know if you just have to hear a few notes. That if there's any songs, you just hear a few notes and you're just like, yeah, memories unlocked.
The McDonald's cartoon is now locked in my head as a core memory from last time. So
Really? Oh yeah, that's right. Hey, it was good times though. But I'll wrap things up for today. I want to thank Ryan and Reagan for doing an amazing job as always. Great work. I feel that we learned a lot from this. It was as productive as it could be, and I hope you two enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, this was good. Reddit makes you think, guys. You got to go on Reddit, but only to do fun stuff like ponder life's questions.
Yes, and I think we will definitely do this again at some point.
I agree.
Thank you again, Reagan and Ryan. I hope you two have a wonderful day. Stay cool, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.